Alright, everybody, welcome to Salt Tastes Good. Today we're talking about my new hyperfixation, Villainy, and why breaking the mold matters. This will be more of like a freeform video, not as scripted. I do have like a vague thing I'm following. But right now we're just kind of introducing a new topic in our new video series about Villainy and how it's a masterclass in breaking the mold of the general typical social deception style of game, and I'm very excited to start talking about it today. But I'll probably get all over the place because I love this frickin' game. Alright, this game's fucking great. Before we get into that though, we're gonna start talking about Among Us, which I think is probably the game defining for the social deception video game genre. If you haven't played Among Us before, it's basically like a whodunit, like a murder mystery esque. Basically, there are people that are like imposters, and they're like the bad guys, and then the crewmates, who are the good guys, are trying to catch the imposters or finish all their tasks. Um, yeah, this pretty much is kind of very, very similar, simple premise about Among Us. Among Us is a social deception game. You might have heard me mentioned earlier. The reason Yeah, you might not know what that means. If you don't, I looked up a Wikipedia definition, which I'm going to read right now, that I've written down, super prepared, I know. A social deception game is defined as a game in which players attempt to uncover each other's hidden role or team allegiance. Commonly, these games are played with teams, with one team being considered good and another team being bad. So that's pretty much. There's always like two teams, and there's usually a bad team. I mean, there's always a bad team. Sorry, where they're like in the minority of the group, but they know who each other are. And then there is the good people who are in the majority, but they don't know anybody, so they don't know who to trust and such. Essentially, basically. So I mentioned earlier, Among Us having popularized the game genre, but I'm talking about Villainy and how Villainy takes Among Us's similar formulaic approach and kind of expands upon it and adds a lot of layers going on to it. Basically, Villainy takes a new spin and adds classes, which are like similar to roles a little bit, but it kind of is very different. So classes give you certain abilities for your characters, but the classes don't make you good or evil. The classes are independent of you being good or bad. This is a really big deal and is a core aspect to Villainy and why Villainy is so much fun. Everyone is also publicly aware of everyone's class, so everyone is also aware of what everyone else can do once you know what all the characters can do and such. And there's 10 classes, and they're always in the game. So it adds a lot of depth to learn what these classes do, but they're always the same 10 you'll see in every game. So it gives you a lot of area to like understand and learn them. I guess I should say 10 at this time. I don't know, in the future if they'll release more classes or not, but currently there's only 10 that exist, I should say, at the timing of this video being created. Anyway, so the reason this is so good is because in a lot of those games that kind of copy Among Us or try to use Among Us's formula and just add roles, which people could say this game is doing, but I think it's very different. The role system is people can just claim the roles they are, like say detective or something, and be like, I know they're bad because I'm detective and I saw this. In this game, you cannot trust information roles because those people can be evil. And that is the entire tension of the game, is a lot about that specifically. And that's why it's really good game design. There are some other reasons why this is amazing and super great, but that is like probably one of the main core ones. And there is a couple of other things we'll go into about it. Also, like the class system has abilities and such, so they have their own mechanics and how they work and such. And they really do this, and that's how they take the mold of Among Us and really expand upon it and make it something its own and unique and really interesting. And I can't wait to talk to you about it. We're back after that cool transition I just did there. So going into some of the core things, we're gonna go probably more specific words. We're about to go more into specifics later, into separate videos whenever we talk about the concept in more detail. But generally, I'd say like 3 main things of why this game is breaking the mold and why it does so well at its job. I'm going to wrap up the gameplay. Obviously, that is a very important aspect of the game for heroes and for villains. Heroes are the good guys, and villains are the bad guys. That's why the game is called Villainy, if you could not tell. Um, the gameplay really matters because obviously that changes how the game is played and why it's breaking the mold and whatever you do. Um, the class system really enables this, and why it gives players decisions on what to do and what they excel at and what they're not as good at, and decisions you have to make based around your ability and stuff, along with the things you already have to do in social deception games, like who do I trust, who do I distrust, should I go find for a body, should I keep doing tasks? You know, we'll go to those more details specifically later. The big difference, though, in the gameplay is the villain gameplay. The villain gameplay is really interesting and pretty different than Among Us. So in Villainy, there's a thing called weapon racks, and pretty much a sword will spawn somewhere on the map, and you have to go get it after a certain amount of time. You have to go find. So once you go there, you pick up your weapon, and make sure nobody sees you because it's pretty suspicious to walk up to a weapon rack. You know, just grab a knife off the chart. You know, whatever, it's fine, no big deal. Yeah, so you're gonna get a sword, and then you have to find somebody, and you swing your sword. So if you imagine, like you swing your sword in an arc, and it hits everybody in front of you, like in an arc, kind of, you know, way. I'll have gameplay of this at some point, not for this video though. So it's a skill shot. You have to aim the ability and land it. So this enables you to make a play, and the hero to try to dodge it or do something and then out you as a villain. It also enables you to get multiple kills. That's right. You can kill multiple people with one sword. So if they're all staying together and trying to huddle, you can just go and just kill everybody. It's crazy what you can do in this game. So that's like a pretty big difference. It's not just like a point-click, you know, kill somebody. You have to like use a skill, and this enables a lot of play space in the game. Which brings me to my next point about skill expression. Everyone has their own ability and, you know, knowledge about what to do and stuff. But you, depending on when you want to use your ability or if you want to save it, can greatly impact the game's outcome and can win you or lose you a game based on how you want to use your ability in that said game. Also, like, I have not talked about it a ton in detail because I think that's more for a detailed video, and this is just a general over guide about why this game is so good and why breaking the mold is really fun and cool about games that I find specifically like asymmetric stuff in general, for sure. But, you know, different villains that are different classes can greatly impact the game of how mobile the villain is and how, you know, they can do certain things. It greatly also impacts the game as a whole. But people being able to dodge the attack is just, it adds a whole new thing. And skill expression was a big important thing that I think was missing in a lot of social deception games. You know, there was no real, like, mechanical output I think you could really do. And this game has a ton of that. And I think that's super cool. And the last third point is pacing. I think pacing is really an important in a game like this that people don't really think about often, I'll be honest. Because in a game about lying and deception, it can feel pretty bad to be invested in to work with somebody for a long time and then they betray you in the end, and that feels really bad. And typically, you know, games of this, of Villainy, will last 10 to 15 minutes, and I think that's a really important, you know, sticking point. If you die early, it sucks, but the game ends so quickly after you die that you don't actually feel that bad about dying, because the game is over fast. If you lie to somebody and you get, you know, you're deceived, your anger is diffused pretty quickly because you're already going into a next game. So I think those are just really important. Pacing is a really big deal when you care about a game like this and about player elimination, and in the sense that like anger needs to be diffused in a healthy way in a game like this. That's pretty much all for me though. If you have any thoughts about anything, you put them in the comments below. I'm excited to get this channel back up again. I know it's been a hot minute since I've done it, but honestly, this excitement about this game has really got me excited about this, and I cannot wait to continue doing a video series about this game and talking more about it for y'all. All right, talk to y'all later, but goodbye. Thank you, everybody.